Well, Amritpal Singh is now joining us from Palm Beach in Florida, and Shubhendu Ghosh is joining us from the US's capital, Washington, D.C. Thanks, both of you, for being with us. Amritpal, let me start with you. You know, one day left. How is the United States gearing up for this election?
That's right, Mark. Less than 24 hours left for the November 5th polls to open, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. The polls open across the United States of America in the various counties. People go out and vote on that day, those who haven't early voted. Though there are record numbers that have voted early, close to about 78 million people have already cast their votes through either early voting or or mail-in ballots or postal ballots. The voting continues till the evening. Preparations at the polling stations are complete. Election officials of the county, state board, election boards have deployed their officials. It's through ballot paper, in very few cases through EVM machines, mostly through the ballot paper. It's not just the Electoral College which elects the president. The electors are not the only one on the ballot. There are seats for the Congress, there are seats for local assemblies, there are other referendums on the ballot, so it's a pretty long ballot that people vote for. So all preparations are complete, and security, as far as security measures, especially in sensitive areas, the National Guard, the federal agencies, and also the state security officials have been deployed to see that things do not go out of hand. Yes, preparations are complete for tomorrow's polls, Mark.
Yes, indeed. Shubhendu, the same kind of question to you. What kind of preparations are in place for voting and counting in Washington, D.C.?
Good morning from Washington, D.C. Mark, this is the seat of power. I am, in fact, standing in front of that prized house that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are competing for. I'm right in front of the White House. Allow me to just give you a better glance. If you could take a full frame of the pictures that I'm going to show you now. That's the White House in front of you. All the buzz that you see in front of it. There are two levels that I want to particularly talk about. Right in front of the White House, there is extensive security that is being maintained. There are these steel fences that are being erected in view of the security situation ahead of the election. And closer to the White House, the crane work that you see are the preparations taking place for the inauguration of the new president. That will happen in about a couple of months in January, but the preparations have already begun, Mark. As far as the elections are concerned, the preparations are complete. Many have already voted in the early round of the votings. Security has also been heightened here in Washington. There is a certain degree of excitement and nervousness in the air ahead of the election. For any untoward happening, the security arrangements have been put up. I mentioned about the fencing, not just the White House, but all important buildings, the U.S. House of Congress and other institutions. They've all been fenced in apprehension of any law and order situation ahead of the elections. Mark?
Amrit, how long will the counting take, and when will we know who the next president is?
Mark, the counting begins right after the voting ends. US is divided into various time zones. The difference between the East Coast and the West Coast is about 3 hours. So, while the East Coast states finish voting and counting begins, results start coming in. But the western states are still voting at that time because of the difference of the time difference between these states. Now, what happens here is that there are states, as you know, who traditionally vote red. There are states who vote blue. So, on the predictable states, as the results come in, TV channels and TV networks start calling in the election in those particular states. But it's the seven battleground states where the contest is really tight, according to the New York Times latest poll survey and the earlier surveys too, where it could take longer. If the contest is really close, there could be demands for a recount. If recounts happen, if things go into litigation, etc., it could take longer. The short answer to your question is that it could be, if it is a clear election, the next day you would have the results overnight. But if it is, it goes into litigation, if it goes into recounts, as it's expected that it's a close, it will be a close call in the swing states. Those particular counties, it could take days, even weeks, before we know who the next
Right.
president of the United States would be.
Right. Finally, Shubhendu, what happens, you know, in Washington, D.C. once the overall results are clear?
That's an important question, Mark. Many would want to believe that perhaps once the voting is complete by 7 p.m. On November 5th, the trends would come in, and perhaps if the difference of votes of the margin is great, then one would know who the next president is. Well, unofficially, yes. That's what the election authorities would tell you. These would be the unofficial results. Remember, it's the electoral college system that is followed here in America. So after the elections are done, the votes are going to be counted. The rest of the month of November, in fact, some part of December would in fact be spent in verifying the votes, especially the postal ballots that
Yes.
have come in. After all the verification, in second part of December, the state's head, which is the governor of the state usually, is going to gather the electors, which are an important part of the electoral college. Now these electors are going to, from each state, these electors would then cast their vote. This is the official process of the election of the US president. These electors would vote. The new House of Representatives would be formed in the beginning of next year, early January.
Okay.
Around 3rd of January, the House of Representatives will count the votes
Yes.
given by the
Yes.
electors. Remember, that's where the major law and order situation happened in the last presidential elections.
Okay.
And that is when the electors' vote will be counted, and the House of Representatives will be able to announce the new president, who will then take oath on around 20th of January next year at the venue that we are standing in front of at the moment. Mark?
Right, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Shubhendu Ghosh and Amritpal Singh, for helping us understand the processes.